everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new to the channel, then hello, my name is Esti, which is a shorter nickname for Esther in Hungary. Hungary is where I'm from. I was born and raised there. I was born in Budapest, but I grew up in a small town, and I've been living in the United States for 5.5 years. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I became fluent in English. This is a question that I get asked all the time, so not only I will share the process, pretty much the past 15 years of me learning English, but I will also give you a few tips and my personal advice on how you can achieve fluency if you're learning English. This video is going to be in English, obviously, but if you are interested in learning some Hungarian, make sure you check out my other videos on this channel. I have uploaded a few videos in the past 3-4 years where I teach basic Hungarian phrases, but if you want to learn Hungarian a little bit more in detail, make sure you check out my course on udemy.com. It's the top-rated Hungarian as a foreign language course. It's called Hungarian for Everyone, and I'll teach you basic grammar structures, lots of words, so you can pretty much speak basic Hungarian after you complete the course. Before I get started with the video, I feel I have to put a disclaimer out there just so I don't get misunderstood. I'm 100% aware that my English is far from being perfect. I'm aware that I have an accent, that my pronunciation is not correct all the time. I make a lot of mistakes, and basically it's not my first language, okay? So I've been living here only for 5.5 years, and my mother tongue is Hungarian, but I feel my English is good enough. It's good enough for me. I feel I have reached my goals that I set for myself when I was younger, and I get asked all the time on how you became so fluent, what did you do, where did you learn it, how can I become fluent? So I decided I make this video. I've already made this video in Hungarian, so if you're one of my Hungarian followers, please check out the video. I will link it down here in the info box, but in this video I'm going to be speaking in English so all my international followers can understand me. If you're currently learning English and you're wondering how much time will it take me to become fluent in English, the answer is that there is not really a specific answer, because it all depends on the level you're starting from and how you're learning the language. It's almost like someone's asking me, how much time will it take me to get into my splits? And we're also different, our flexibility is different. It depends on how often you're stretching, what's the flexibility level you're starting from. So make sure you keep this in mind, that we're all different, we all learn differently, so there is not a black and white answer for this. But I'm going to share my journey and my tips on how you can become fluent, and hopefully you will find them useful. So the number one thing that helped me achieve fluency in English is that I always had this desire to speak fluent in English, if that makes sense. So I was very young, I think around 14, when I came up with this decision that I'm going to speak English fluently. I don't care how many years it's going to take, I don't care how I will get there, but it's going to happen. And the reason for that is I always wanted to travel. I loved traveling, and I just understood at a very young age that if you want to succeed internationally, the only way to do that is if you speak the language that most people speak in the world, or it's the common language for the world, okay? So I know Chinese and Spanish are also in the top 3 most spoken languages in the world, but if you put together people from a bunch of different nations, it's pretty much English that they will speak, that they will share. So I figured this out at a very young age, and the fact that Hungarian is only spoken in Hungary definitely didn't help my situation, so I just knew that there is no other way. I have to put the time, the effort, and the energy into learning English. So I always had this inner drive, this inner motivation. I never felt like it's a chore or it's something that I hate. I always wanted to become fluent in English. The other thing that was very significant, like a memory that I remember vividly, was that there was this Hungarian reporter who spoke 3 languages, and she traveled all around the world. And so I just really admired anybody at that time who can speak multiple languages and people who can switch between these languages so naturally, so effortlessly. So I just wanted that. It's so hard to describe, but I was so young. I was listening to these people who speak all these languages, and I knew that's something I wanted. So forget about all these steps that I'm about to share. If you don't have this inner drive, a motivation that comes from within, it's going to be much harder to achieve fluency in any language, not just in English. So make sure that you find a motivation that is coming from within. It's not external, that kind of keeps you going even when you don't feel like studying or practicing, or your brain is getting tired. Make sure that you want this. You want to achieve fluency, okay? And then when it comes to the actual process, one of the most important thing is that I had a very solid foundation from high school and college. So I started learning English as a second language in elementary school, but that really didn't mean too much. We just learned basic words, a little bit of grammar, nothing functional. But when I started high school, that was just next level English education. So I had English as a second language class every single day, 5 times a week. 2 of them were with a native British speaker, and 3 of them were focused on our writing, our listening skills, the grammar structures, all that stuff. Like I said, this is not very typical for Hungary. I feel extremely lucky that I had this opportunity in high school. The statistics are pretty bad, actually. Hungary, most of the time, is ranked as one of the worst countries in the European Union when it comes to the percentage of the population who can speak English, and the reason for that is our education of English as a second language. For me, that wasn't the case. High school and college definitely helped me. I actually picked my major based on the opportunities of improving my English. My major was international economics. That means I had a lot of classes in English. I just kept learning and adding more vocabulary, more grammar, professional terms. So by the end of college, I passed an exam of advanced business English, or economic English language, whatever you want to call it. So that's how I started. Now, if you don't have this opportunity in your high school or college, we live in 2018, so make sure you find something online. There are all kinds of applications, there are all kinds of courses, free content that will help you to build a solid foundation. Especially if you learn English as an adult, where you have to start from the basics and you need to understand basic grammar structures. It will just help you on the long term. If you are someone who hates grammar, who never liked learning grammar, you might want to just change the way you think about grammar, because you should look at it as a tool and not the enemy of language learning, more like a tool that gives you a little bit of structure, gives you a little bit of system that you can build on. So I had that opportunity and I don't take it for granted. Then I was 23 when I came to the United States to be an au pair. And my English was definitely functional. I could have a conversation, but nowhere near to where I'm at today. So I didn't understand slang. I didn't understand fast American speech. I didn't understand movies or radio or anything like that. So I didn't have the fluency I have. So how did I become fluent, right? So the most important thing, and I think that would be my number one tip of this video, is I didn't stop learning the language once I moved to the United States. So ever since I started teaching English as a second language, I've been getting so many emails from people, Hungarian people, who live either in the United States or in the UK, and they tell me, Esti, I've been living here for I don't know how many years, but my English has not improved the way I expected. I've been here for 3, 4, 5 years, and I feel I still can't speak the language. I'm too shy. I don't want to talk to people. I don't understand people. And once we have our first session, it turns out that they stop learning the language and they don't even speak to native speakers. So that will take us to my next tip, but let's just talk about the fact that you should never stop learning the language just because you move to a country where the language is spoken. So when I came to the States, I was running around with my little notebook all the time, and I took notes, and I always asked questions. I still had my textbooks, so every time I wasn't sure about something, at the end of the day, I just opened up the book. I was looking for the answers and trying to figure out like what I heard, why did they say it like that. But then when I had the opportunity to have a conversation with people, I asked questions, okay? I observed, I listened carefully, and then I asked questions. So if I didn't understand something, I never just let it pass, okay? I never just let it pass and me thinking, well, okay, I didn't get this, I don't know what she or he's saying. I stopped the person, and I would ask, what do you mean? Why did you say it like that? Sorry, I don't understand this word. Could you repeat it? Could you just tell me in another way? So don't be shy to ask questions. That would be my tip. This is part of, don't stop learning the language. The other thing is when you are speaking the language and you can't express yourself, which happened to me many times. So I was trying to say something, but I just couldn't express myself the way I wanted. I always asked for help. I always asked the person next to me, could you help me? How would you say that? I just don't find the words. So don't settle. Don't find the easy way, and you want to say something but you don't know how to, and you're just like, oh, okay, whatever, I don't know this word, so I'll just say it. In the beginning, of course, that's all right. I just want you to speak, okay? Especially when you're new to a country, just speak the language, just practice. But if you really want to improve over time, you need to be able to step it up a little bit, and the only way to do that is if you don't settle, if you ask for help, if you are trying to use nicer words, you're trying to sound more sophisticated, okay? So that would be my other little tip. So the next one sounds so obvious, and yet so many people still don't do it, and that is practice the language, communicate with the people around you, especially if you live in the country where English is spoken. So back to the emails that I'm getting all the time. People tell me, my English is not improving, I still can't speak the language, I don't understand when people are talking to me. Turns out they don't even speak English. They're constantly surrounded by Hungarians or other Europeans, especially the people who live in the UK, or even in the States. Some people are not even forced to speak English. So for me, that was super important that when I came to the United States, I didn't hang out with Hungarians. I didn't know anybody. I didn't want to know anybody from Hungary, because you know what happens. You go somewhere, especially if you are doing one of these exchange programs where there's a lot of other students and people from all over the world, you just gravitate to your nationality. And what's end up happening is you hang out with people from your country and you don't speak English. So don't be one of those people. If you live in the UK, then talk to British people. If you live in the United States, then talk to American people. Make sure you take advantage of this opportunity and practice the language. It could be something so simple, like just go to a coffee shop, practice the language, okay? Ask for a coffee, make an order, pick up the phone, and all these little things will add up. Don't get stuck in your comfort zone where you're just looking for people from your country so you feel safe. The only way to get really good at English is if you step out of the comfort zone and you practice the language. So keep this in mind. If you want to speak fluently, you need to speak. It's that simple. Now let's talk about how you become from a total beginner to a very advanced English speaker, somebody who's 100% fluent. And I think one of the best way to do it is if you never stop learning in general. I believe in lifelong learning, so I've been just following this simple rule ever since I'm here. So if you stop reading, if you stop listening, if you stop writing, your language skills will never get better. So if you are in an English speaking country, make sure that you learn about things in English. In my case, that meant I completed my personal trainer certificate as well as my 200-hour yoga teacher training here in the United States. And I've been consuming tons and tons of content in the topic of business, entrepreneurship, personal finance, management, all kinds of stuff, okay? And these will all add up. If you want to expand your vocabulary, if you want to sound more sophisticated, the only way to do that is if you consume the language in any way you can possibly do it. Turn on the TV if you live in an English speaking country, turn on the radio, make sure you read newspapers, make sure you read blogs, make sure you watch YouTube videos. So many times my students tell me that they live in the United States, but they watch YouTube videos in Hungarian. They listen to Hungarian radio channels on the internet, and that will not help you to become fluent in English. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? So make sure that you never stop learning in general, so you learn something in English, and that will just really step up your English and help you achieve 100% fluency. So to sum up everything I was talking about just now, immerse yourself in the language that you're trying to learn. Even if you don't live in a country where English is spoken, English is around us, okay? 24/7, every single day. Make sure you consume content in English. It could be podcast episodes, it could be your favorite blog, YouTube channels, TV shows, anything you want. Find what interests you and consume the content in English, and you will notice huge improvement. And my next little tip would be something similar that I already talked about, and that is listen carefully to the people around you. Every time I have a session with somebody, a private English lesson online, before I ask a question, I usually tell them, listen carefully to my question, because then you will have the structure for the answer, okay? So most of the time the answer is in the question itself. Meaning, if I ask somebody, how long have you been learning English? You can hear that I use present perfect continuous, therefore you can pretty much steal the structure and just answer that I have been learning English for whatever years, okay? So listen carefully, because just by listening to the people around you, you can learn so much if you take the time to digest it, maybe afterwards, maybe when you wind down at the end of the day, like what you heard. Some people said something like this, or I didn't get that, maybe I should look into it. That's what happened to me, I'm telling you. So at the end of the day, I looked at my notes and I was like, okay, someone said this word, what does this mean? And I would just look for it, I would search for the answer. I always had this desire to be better and better. I never wanted to settle. And then my last tip would be just be patient and be realistic. Achieving fluency in English is not going to happen overnight. Definitely didn't happen to me overnight. It actually took me 15 years. So don't give up and don't think that, oh, it's I'm just like a slow learner. We're all different, okay? It might take you more than 15 years, it might take you less than 15 years, but make sure that mentally you are not holding yourself back. You don't say stuff like, oh, I will never be able to do this, or I will never be able to understand, native English speakers. No, it might take a little bit longer than you think, but if you have the dedication and if you put the effort, the time, and the energy into it, you will see the results. Fluency is definitely a complex skill. Oftentimes in Hungary, we think that if somebody is fluent in English, that only means somebody can speak English without any interruption for any length of time. But fluency is much more than that. Fluency is actually a combination of multiple skills of writing, listening, reading, and speaking. So if you're interested, I will put the link down below in the description box of Stefanie, the English coach. She's amazing. I love her channel. She has this video that's called How Fluent Are You? Or it's basically a test to see if you're fluent in English. And she's listing all these bullet points that will help you decide, are you fluent, or there are still areas you need to work on. And I really found that video useful, and I'm also very happy that once I went through these points, I realized, yes, I am fluent in English. So I'm not going to cover all of these points. I'm just going to mention a few of them to you. The number one thing is that I understand all kinds of accents of English, okay? It wasn't the case when I came to the United States. I had such a hard time, understanding people from different states. There's different accents, New York accents and Boston accents and the Southern accents. So for me, that was all new, and I had such a hard time sometimes understanding people. But now, not only I understand accents from the United States, but from other countries where English is spoken, such as South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and accents from other countries anywhere in the world. So Asian, could be Chinese, Japanese, people from Thailand, and South American accents, and people from France or Italy, Spain. I have no problem pretty much detecting and understanding all kinds of accents. And the other thing is that I feel confident talking about everyday topics as well as very professional or technical topics. Not everything though. I feel like my vocabulary is still very limited when it comes to, for example, law. So sometimes I don't 100% understand all the words that people would use in a contract per se, or my medical vocabulary is obviously limited. But generally speaking, I feel very confident talking about whatever topic. I can also use verb tenses and modals naturally. It wasn't the case when I got here, trust me. I always had to think about, oh, why do I say this like that? I needed to think about all these structures, but now it comes very naturally, and I say things sometimes not because I know that they're right, but I think they sound right. So you're fluent when you say something not because you know that it's right, but because it sounds right, okay? And that's just one of the many things that Stefanie, the English coach, mentions in this video. And the last thing I wanted to say also from this video is that I know that I'm fluent because English grammar structures and the vocabulary have totally affected the way I speak Hungarian. So I sound ridiculous sometimes when I try to say something in my language because there is no direct translation for a lot of things from English to Hungarian. So I don't translate from Hungarian to English in my head. When I speak English, I think in English. And when I try to reverse that and I want to say something in Hungarian, my thoughts are in English, so I'm translating back from English to Hungarian, and it sounds silly sometimes. So you're fluent when you have reached this level that you're confused with your language, okay? That's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you found it useful, and I hope it helps you to believe that achieving fluency is not impossible, no matter where you are at right now. But also it takes definitely time, effort, dedication, energy. So there are no shortcuts, there are no magic ways. Things will not just fly in your head and all of a sudden, you speak with everybody fluently, you understand everything. So give yourself some time and do the work, and you will see fantastic results. And of course, leave your comments down below because I'm super interested in knowing where you're at in your journey of learning English as a second language. Also, let me know if you have been to Hungary. What do you think about the Hungarian language? What do you think about the Hungarian people and the food, Budapest, everything that you want to share with me? Make sure you subscribe to my channel because I have other videos where I teach basic Hungarian phrases. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Have a wonderful day. Bye.